I want to welcome all you guys to our first group at Cal State LA, who is going to be run by Mr. Raymond, one of our staff and also now intern with us. We want you guys to be able to enjoy this moment and learn, take some knowledge and write it down and maybe pass it on to somebody else. Like I said, we're here for a purpose, right? And learning is very important to us, right? And educating other people, what we learn. So I want you guys to enjoy yourself.
We're running for Fear for Breakfast in collaboration with Project Rebound. I intern and also staff member of Fear for Breakfast, and I'm also staff at Project Rebound. So I'm happy to be a part of both of those for this platform that we have today. Today's topic, we're going to be covering childhood trauma, which leads to arrested development, which possibly could lead to arrested development if not properly dealt with. How many of you in this room had suffered childhood trauma of any form? See, most of us in some way, shape, or form have been through something in our childhoods. So today I'm going to give you an example of what that could lead to if not properly dealt with. Okay? So I have a definition of trauma up here, but I want to go around the room and ask, can anyone give me their definition of trauma? Anyone?
Trauma is something that takes away your joy and your spirit of everyday living. You're all of a sudden in a shell. You got your head down. You're not yourself. You know, you're out of character.
So I like how she said that, because basically she's explaining the effects of it, right? That's the effects of it. And that's one of the problems with trauma. What about you, Desiree?
Trauma is something that you have no control over. It's something that happens to you at any time in your life, really. Yeah, it's just something you don't really have control over.
All right, thank you. John?
So trauma is something that affects you mentally, physically, emotionally, that have a cause on your behavior or your well-being. That's what trauma is. It's a personal effect.
One thing that I can add is not all trauma is something you don't have control over, because you can actually unconsciously put yourself through trauma based on the trauma you had happen in your life before that you had no control over. So inevitably you end up putting yourself through more trauma, because that's how your psyche has evolved to think it's normal.
That makes sense.
So that's good that you said that, because what we're going to deal with today, we're going to show how you get to that point, how trauma progresses over time, right?
Yeah, trauma is stressful as well. It's an impactful event that changes your experiences throughout life. So it has a lasting impact on you.
And that's a perfect point. That's why we teach this. So we're going to show how that takes effect and takes shape. Tony?
Yeah, trauma can also come from a sense of fear without even realizing you had the fear. Say like a childhood movie when you were young, things could still be traumatized to this day.
Right.
In the form of that.
Yeah, and we're going to unfold all that as we go along. So I'm going to give you the definition that, the dictionary definition of trauma. It's a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. But this one is more important when it comes to arrested development, the second definition. Emotional shock following a stressful event or physical injury, which may be associated with physical shock, right? So this one, combined with that one, really pertains to arrested development, okay? And so I'm gonna get into the definition of arrested development. Anybody know what it is without looking at this? Anyone have an idea? Have you ever heard of that term?
Yes. I haven't heard of the phrase arrested development, but I did learn that sometimes when you go through trauma, your brain stops evolving.
Good job.
You remain that same age that your first traumatic event happened to you throughout your whole life mentally.
So look, the definition, right? It's an abnormal state in which development has stopped prematurely, right? Specifically when a person is stuck at an early phase of emotional development, right? So you're both correct, right? So what happens when you suffer childhood trauma and it's not processed correctly, right? You end up being stuck at that age emotionally, physically, mentally. It's all combined, right? And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. I'm gonna process one of my traumas and I'm gonna show you what it looks like personally, right? So when it comes to arrested development, there's 5 major traumas that cause it, right? And it's in the order of severity here, right? 1, rejection, any form of rejection. And one of the key elements of that is It's the way you perceive it, right? So I could perceive rejection one way, and Maya might be able to perceive it a different way. John, he perceives rejection. It's all in the eyes of the beholder, right? So this is very important, and we'll get into perception later. Secondly, this is a difficult topic, but molestation and then incest. There are two different forms. One is by the family, and one is perpetrated by anyone, right? And fourth, emotional abuse. Any form of emotional abuse, and again, this is perception, can cause it. Also physical abuse, obviously physical, violence, what have you. I'm gonna get into the really touching the physical and emotional and rejection. So sometimes you could have all five in one trauma, right? And that's devastating, right? Sometimes you may just have one or two. Actually, most of them we're gonna have two, right? So I'm gonna show you what that looks like once I process my own trauma. I'm gonna put myself up here, and I'm gonna process something that I went through when I was a child, and I'm gonna show you what that looked like for me in my early stages. Anybody have any questions as far as the rest development goes? Can I ask the room? You don't have to give me what happened, but how many of you suffered these 5 major traumas as a kid?
3 of them.
Pretty much the whole room, all right? So I will say this. I went to prison, I did life, I committed a crime, and I had to figure out why I committed that crime, right? I had to explain it to the board. I had to give them an understanding that I knew what happened to me so that I know what I could fix. In order for you to fix something, you have to know what's wrong with it, right? You have to know where it comes from. And that's why this is important. We use this inside to help my brothers and sisters get out. This is one of the beginning process of what we do inside in order to come home. And so it's very important. See, as you see, there's many ex-lifers in this room, people who did time. It's not easy getting out. We had to go through a process. And this is the first step that I want to share with you. I've had to process this one numerous times. And this is exactly the root of all my problems. I've identified it, right? This was the beginning, the foundation. It set the stage for the rest of my life because I didn't process it, right? So, as you can see, we're going to identify trauma, right? I wrote thoughts, emotions, mindset, character defects. So I'm going to take you on a little journey this looks like, all right? So the night of my life crime, I had a certain mentality, right? I had character flaws or defects, right, that contributed with it, right? This is the thinking, perception, the way you view the world, all that in one, and this fuels the other. One fuels the other, right, and vice versa. So when I was 7 years old, my dad physically abused me, right? He was an alcoholic. Him and my mom had problems. He had financial issues. His mom just died, and he turned into an alcoholic. So I don't know what I did, because I can't remember, but he picked me up by one arm, and he whipped me up and down my body. My little legs are dangling. I'm trying to block it. I can't block the belt. I'm looking at my mom. My mom can't do nothing. My dad's a big guy. My brother's crying. He's like 4 years younger than me. He can't do nothing. And I'm just sitting there helpless, right? So I identify who did it here for a reason, okay? That was my father. So what do you think out of those 5 major traumas that I suffered in that moment? Out of the 5 that I showed you that caused arrested development, which ones you think pertain to that issue?
Emotional abuse.
Emotional?
Physical abuse.
Physical. Rejection.
That's what I was gonna say, rejection,
Yeah.
because you look to your mom and your brother, nobody could help you. You felt
Emotional.
rejected.
Your father rejected.
Rejection
Physical.
and physical, right?
Yes.
3 major traumas that cause arrested development. I had 3 of them on this one instance. Okay? So this is important, right? So you got to understand what it did to you, right? The age is important. I'll get to that in a minute. And who did it's important, all right? So now I'm going to take you through a journey of what I must have been thinking in that moment when it was happening to me, right? What do you think? If this was you, what would you think in that moment?
If it was you?
Yeah,
If you were
say
the-
it was you
you were
what
being
would be
abused.
one thought you might have had in that moment.
What did I do wrong? Why?
Good job.
I'm gonna put why. What did I do wrong? Why? It's perfect.
Helpless,
Good job.
like powerless.
So, but what is a thought?
Oh, what's the thought?
What's a thought?
Feel weak?
Like a
oh,
thought, like, why is he
okay.
doing this to me?
Okay, so
So
yeah,
we're gonna get to the way you
Emotions.
felt.
emotion. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like you feel like you're a bad person.
Okay. I'm a bad person. So,
He hates me.
okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this here, but I'm gonna show you why that belongs somewhere else in a minute, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm a bad person. You said my dad hates me?
Yep.
I'm gonna leave it at, okay, I'll get one more and then
Tony?
What did I do?
All right, perfect. So, I'm gonna do 3 of my own, but actually 2 of these is actually what I actually thought. So, one was why, the other one was what did I do, and I thought my dad hated me. But I'm gonna get one more, because it's important. Why isn't my mom stopping me?
Mm.
That's what I was thinking. Why didn't nobody help you?
My mom was the only one right there besides my brother. Why didn't my mom stop me? Okay, so, I mean, we could come up with a lot of them, right? But I just wanted to give you an example of how to process this, right? What we're doing is processing the trauma right now, together, all right? So, every thought triggers multiple emotions, multiple. And in this instance, it's important that we document every single one of them for each thought, and I'll tell you why later. So, if I'm saying, why is this happening to me? What's an emotion I was feeling?
Hurt.
Hurt,
Scary.
Angry.
hurt, scared, angry,
Confused.
Fear.
perfect, confused. That's a big one. Hurt, sad, how about sad?
Yep.
Yeah.
How about resentment?
Resent. Oh, absolutely.
Resentment is a big deal, and I'll tell you why later. There's a reason why we're documenting emotions, right? And why you're gonna see these ones come up multiple times, and that's okay. I'm gonna tell you why that's important. Second one, I'm a bad person. What was I thinking? Or
Like maybe.
what emotions was I feeling there?
Like
I don't deserve love.
So wait.
shame.
Mary,
Mary said
Mary
shame.
say shame.
Shame.
I don't deserve love.
So that goes somewhere else.
Oh.
I'm gonna show you why in a minute.
Did you
So,
feel a little bit of
Let's
Guilt?
take this one,
Huh?
because I'm gonna tell you why we're gonna put it somewhere else, okay?
You
Let's
felt
go
a
to this
little
one.
bit of guilt as a 7-year-old kid. It's guilt, because guilt and shame is two
Well, I'll
different
put it
things.
right there.
I mean,
That's the same thing.
no, guilt and shame
Okay,
is
well,
different.
well, look, we're gonna skip this one though.
Okay,
It belongs somewhere else. That's why
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for us
yeah,
to
process
process
that.
it, right? My dad hates me. What am I feeling there?
Rejection.
Rejection. Yep.
Hurt, rejected, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one?
Hurt.
Hurt. What else?
What did I do?
Abandoned.
About sad,
Abandoned.
Abandoned.
abandoned,
That's a good one.
Unworthy.
unworthy.
What else?
How about confused?
Yeah.
I feel confused again.
Yeah.
For now, we'll just leave it at that, right? It's just for the sake of time. Now, what did I do? What am I feeling now? Confused
Scared.
again.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say, scared?
Yeah.
I'm for fear. How about sad?
Lost.
Lost.
Mm.
What else?
Broken.
Broken?
Broken. That's a good one.
One more.
Helpless.
Helpless.
Helpless. Who said that?
Well, I've been waiting for that one.
Ah, Tony.
Where else does that one go? Can it go anywhere?
All of them.
I'm gonna put it up there.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, hopeless. That's another one. I'm just gonna put quotes up here, right?
Empty.
They're up there too, right? Just for the sake of time. So this one, why didn't my mom stop them? What am I feeling?
Angry.
Angry. Angry. See, angry could be on all of them, right?
Yeah.
Confused.
Resentment.
Confused. That's why she don't help me, huh?
Hopeless.
Yes.
Hopeless. We'll stop there for now. All right. As you can see, I mean, if we have more time to do it, I would literally write everything down in this section. Everything we could think of. Even if it took us an hour, there will be a paragraph on each one of these thoughts of emotions, right? So the problem with this is that our brain records every negative word, every negative thought, every negative feeling forever. It's recorded in your brain forever, and it's on an unconscious level, all right? The more negativity you endure, the more negative you will become, all right? The more negative thoughts you have, the more negative you become. It's a fact, right? This is a problem. This is where we went wrong when we were early on in our childhoods. This is one trauma. If I was to tell you everything I went through that I never processed, that I never got help for, you will see the progression of the person I became, right? You will understand why I was able to murder somebody, right? So look, let's look at these two things as a math problem. One, this plus this equals those two things over there, right? So mine, when you brought this up, I'm a bad person, that belongs there.
Yeah.
That's what you think of yourself. This is your mentality. I'm a bad person. Why would you say that, Mike? In this situation, why would you have that thought that I'm a bad person?
Because like, if I feel like if my dad abused me, he must have not liked me. So in turn, maybe I deserve it. Maybe I'm a bad person.
So imagine a kid thinks like that. I'm a bad person. You know, like, what do you think that behavior follows belief? So if you think you're a bad person, you're gonna be a bad person. You're gonna soon adapt that mentality, and your behavior will follow that belief. That's why it's a problem.
I was gonna say, I'm taking a course right now, socialization of childhood and adolescence, where basically, as you grow up, you mirror emotions first. So whatever the people closest to you, caregivers, family, environment, because you're still learning and adapting, because your mind is processing everything, you're gonna mirror whatever emotions you see. You haven't processed it, so you just mirroring what you're being shown as a child as you grow up.
And that's a different element. That element contributes to this, right? If you were to add that element into this, then it becomes worse, right? So look, give me another. This, you got one?
Maybe like not worthy or.
I'm not worthy, right?
Yeah, it's how you believe in yourself, your
So
mind.
that goes hand in hand with this one. I'm not worthy.
Not worthy, yeah.
Mindset is
I don't care.
Everybody against me.
That's what I was thinking.
So everything about you, projection about the world around you. So that's how you
Well,
feel.
That one's important.
Yeah,
Everyone's against me.
everyone's against me because
I'm
I'm.
gonna tell you why.
That's a big one.
important.
Yeah.
That's why we become tough
Yeah.
criminals.
Against the world.
Maybe my mom doesn't.
Say that again.
Not my parents. My
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't
my
love me.
parents don't love me.
Right? Perfect. I was looking for that.
I deserve it.
Something wrong with me?
Yeah.
That's good.
Ray,
We're just gonna do one more. That one right there, and we're good.
all right.
Next, you got another one?
I have a good one for you, and
Right.
it accumulates to everything that you're talking about.
Right.
Because your parents are looked at as authority figures, so
Right.
you develop a disregard for authority.
Okay, that goes here. This shapes your character, right? So authority conflict is what they taught us how to use that word. Authority conflict means anybody in authority will trigger us, right?
Defiant.
Authority conflict, that was good. It's important to distinguish the difference between these things, right? That's why I was saying that don't belong there, it belongs here, right?
Right.
Try to distinguish the difference, because there is a difference, right? And it's important because then when it's time to deal with this particular menu here, right, it's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff, the character defects, you have to just stay on the defect in order to fix it. When it comes to this, there's a way to fix that. They're separate elements, right? They all go hand in hand, but it's important to understand what you're working on in order to fix it, right? Let me get one more in mindset. I'm gonna put it because
Go
this
ahead.
is what I thought that night, right? If you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you. This is what ended up happening for me. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. So this has many shapes and forms. You hurt my feelings. The problem with me is I'm gonna use violence in return. I'm not gonna hurt your feelings back. I'm gonna use violence, but I'll tell you why I resorted to violence later. We'll get to that. So let's get into, now that we identified potential mindset, let's get into defects. What's some other flaws I might have developed because of these two things?
Drugs and alcohol.
So an addict.
Addicts,
right?
Yeah, because you can't deal with it anymore. The hurt is getting the best of you.
I wrote the word addict because that's how you identify it, right? But the substance abuse, like say drugs and alcohol, that's gonna be coping skills. See, you separate the two. They're one and the same, but when you say I started using heroin or I started drinking, now that's a coping skill. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it comes from the addict, right? So anybody else have another one for this?
False pride.
False pride? Explain that from here.
False pride is that
Using these examples.
instead of looking like I'm a weak person, like I did something wrong,
Right.
instead of being hurt, I'm
Right.
not gonna let my feelings be known. So I'm gonna develop false pride and being standing by. If you hurt me, I'm
So-
gonna hurt you mindset.
So instead of false pride,
Just name the character defect
we're gonna
like
say prideful.
yeah, prideful.
Prideful. Instead of false pride,
Yeah.
we'll say prideful.
No, just put egotistic
Egos would be
Yeah.
different.
We could put prideful.
because we all have it. That was right. They come
The
down
other
to it.
one, that is one.
Egotistic because what happens is can develop into that. You don't want to be weak. Then
So this one was, don't you know who you're fucking? That was actually
Okay.
in my mind that night.
aggressions. You're aggressive, right? So you create aggressive that I gotta be tough. Aggressive, right?
Angry.
Anger, violence. There you go. Violence become a character defects.
Aggressive,
Entitled.
entitled.
Putting yourself in relationships and situations closely associated to that trauma
Yes.
unconsciously.
How was that? How would you name it?
I would say becoming,
Say again?
adapting that type of lifestyle.
That's
Your
trauma
little home,
bonding.
You became a part of the gang.
When you put yourself in relationships with people that also have trauma,
But what's that
is that
word?
what you-
Something.
It's
In dealing with what?
No, I know what it is.
Codependent.
Codependency. Come on, guys. The big
that
one.
one's huge. But you're caught on this.
The board told us that many
There's one-
times.
There's one that goes before that. It's low self-esteem.
Yeah, low.
Negative behavior. Low self-esteem, value. Why? Let me ask you this: if I'm the board, why did you do that?
No, because I didn't know no better. That's all I knew.
Go deeper.
Low
Why did you do that?
self-esteem. Low
I did it because I was
self-esteem.
looking for
Where does
love.
your low self-esteem
Go back
come
right
from?
here. Use this. Help her that.
Where
Huh?
does your so low self-esteem come from?
It comes from not having and not being praised, not having support,
You was looking for that love
Look,
that your dad didn't give you.
If
abandonment.
they were about to ask me that, I'd come up with the answer right now. I processed it. It came from right here.
Yeah,
It came
all of
from when my
that.
dad first beat my ass.
The root cause.
That was the root,
Unworthiness.
the root,
root
cause
cause.
of my low self-esteem. It also progressed over time, but this was the root of it.
Yeah.
You see, that was an issue and board for us. We had to, they're like, hey, why'd you join the gang? Oh, because I needed love.
That part.
Self-acceptance.
I was
Oh,
looking
yeah?
for it. Didn't have it
What
at
about,
home
what
for-
about, because you were already like those dudes. You already were stealing. You were already you already smoked weed. You already cut school, right? So it's like the law of attraction. Like attracts like. The real reason we join gangs is because we gravitate towards people who we are like. The love and acceptance and all that, that's a bonus. But the
Yeah.
real reason is because of the stuff that we developed at an early age. By the time we were introduced to these people, we fit more into them than we did the dudes who play sports.
You trauma bonded.
I used to play sports. I was good at sport. I played sports all the way in high school.
Bowling?
But guess what? I used to cut sports to kick it with my homies because I didn't feel like these guys were like me. These guys were like me. That's why I
Yeah.
went to them. I wanted to smoke weed. I wanted to hang out with them. I wanted the girls. I wanted to drink. That's what I wanted to do. I love playing sports, but I love that better. I could show you the progression of how I went from, I was innocent, I love people, I love sports, I love to play, I love my family. This changed everything.
Yeah. For
Because
real.
I didn't have no help. No one helped me. My mom told me this one quote, and I'll never forget it. I wish I had you now to help me with you when you were a kid.
Wow.
That's what she told me, and damn, that shit hit me like it was like 2 years before I got out. I still haven't had a date yet, but I was really, I did the work and I was already changed, right? And so when my mom told me that, I knew I was on the right track. I needed those kind words from her.
That's right.
Because I was bitter at her because I felt rejection from her and my dad for my mom not doing nothing and for my dad doing it to me. There was way more that happened down the road. Why I hated my mom, you know, but we're not talking about that at the moment.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of this? Give me some feedback on, does any of this, can you relate to it in your own lives?
I feel like my trauma has made me the person I am today, and it's made a clear impact of what I want to do with my future. And I feel like you do need to come to a awareness of that trauma. Otherwise, it will consume you, and like those character defects. I mean, unfortunately, there is people who still haven't had that opportunity to self-aware for themselves. That are still stuck in like that mindset.
I have a question for you, right? So, do you think, because it seems like you process yours well, right? Because your mindset right now, I see it, right? Do you think you still have any of your character flaws from your childhood? You think there's still some left over?
Of course.
Yeah. So like we still like, even me, I've done all this work, and I still get triggered, you know? So there's still things that still bother me, right? It's just luckily I have the tools to deal with
The
it.
coping.
And we'll get to that later. We'll get to next workshop, we're gonna talk about how do we deal with this stuff, right? And how we process it. But thank you. Lucas?
For my victim, like I said, it's one thing that I did decide to kill him. He didn't die, right? But at the same time, to make someone else feel something you're feeling, I do understand that pain, especially when you're a kid. It's like, man, you feel helpless. Like sometimes you feel like you want individuals to help you, right? And if you do, something's gonna actually bad happen, right? So like I said, and when you start like being in your adolescence, right, you're trying to figure out things, you start kind of, and for me, it's one of the things that I always thought that there was something wrong with me, right? Like, this is why the way I am, right? And then, like I said, I joined the gang, I started doing things for the gang. I mean, it's something that it starts feeling like, you start feeling accepted, like, oh, this is who I am, right? I am a bad person, I am a bad kid, carrying these labels, even having these character defects, right? You kind of normalize them, like I said, having low self-esteem, you know what I mean? Even though you could look a certain way, but like inside you're kind of, not the person you want to be. Like I said, we kind of describe like, yeah, I was always a happy kid, I love my life and everything, I love my family, but like certain things, like, man, like why, like I always feel like you start feeling like, okay, why am I different, right? And then you hang around with other individuals that are kind of like, okay, all these guys are kind of similar to you, start showing that affection, that love, right? And it's like one of the things, I have that same belief and value, right? But it's kind of, like to try to get their awareness, changing that narrative, that label that you actually have into something positive.
Yeah. I grew up being the only child. For a lot of people, when I tell them that, they think like, oh, like you had everything must have been so easy for you, but it wasn't like that. Both parents worked all the time. My dad has anger issues, so like a lot of that, like he'll take it out like on me and my mom. And it was very hard growing up like that. I was always very shy. I know like once I hit my teenage years, my dad and me, we would hit heads like a lot, and my mom would always side with him, and it was just very hard, you know, trying to discover who you are, and at the same time your parents telling you that, you know, like this is wrong, like, you know, trying to set like a picture perfect, but at the same time you're trying to figure out who you really are. And I would say, yeah, like I still have some of those characteristics. I feel like I have found a way how to mask it and portray, you know, an image where I think people think like, oh, she's good, you know, like she has everything set.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, is I can relate to the board like immediately because, you know, like they say some trauma when you join a gang, and some people can walk away from the gang because there's one trauma, they can deal with that trauma, they walk away. Well, sometimes when the board asks me a question, why are you so invested in the gang? Even in prison, you want to be somebody in the gang. How do we know you're not going to come out and want to be a gang leader again, like, or something like that? And because the problem with me is poverty. Being poor made me feel humiliated, embarrassed, ashamed, low self-worth. That's one. Joining a gang made me feel wealthy because I can commit crime with fellow friends and make money. Two, being neglected by my mom. The word neglect is a powerful word for the Asian community because this is how they say it. If I put food on your table, that's love. If I put a roof on your head, that's love. But I didn't know as a child, I wanted affection, I wanted accolade, I wanted attention too. But she worked so much, so I started to process it. That's neglect. I didn't get the emotional need I wanted. So when I have it from my fellow gang member, that's a 2 traumas that came into fit in one. So sometimes 2 or 3 trauma that make it stronger. That's an invisible force. The third one was being bullied. When I was going to school as a young kid, I dressed shabby clothes and I didn't speak good English, and I was making fun of that they want to beat me up. And so being bullied made me feel humiliated, embarrassed, low self-worth, and ashamed, right? So there's a cross between the feeling, the emotion again, right? So now when I joined a gang, I had sports friends too, just like Raymond. They were good, positive people. They loved me. But I know they wouldn't get my back if something happened, right? And so with these dudes, I know they're criminal. They're down with me. We ride together. And so it made me more, there you go again, see? I chose the path that's more connected to me on a personal level because I didn't feel safe when I was being bullied. But these people made me feel safe and strong and powerful, right? And so that's why there's a lot of accumulation between my trauma that made me dedicate my life to the gang. And I was willing to kill anybody for the gang, which I did, unfortunately. And so now understanding this, so if it's one trauma would lead me make the decision to join the gang, I can work on that. But there was too many trauma that I needed the gang, that I thought I did. And so I like the way the board was presented. It made it more clear to everybody. Josh.
For my defects, I always got told as a child that I couldn't do anything. I was stupid. So I had a lot of emotional abuse. And so still to this day, I still deal with it. Like, I act out as a resort of that, and I'll shut down. Like, I won't talk to my family. I'll just shut down totally, and I won't mention nothing to nobody. I'll keep it in, and then eventually it'll all come out. And unfortunately, I ended up killing somebody partly because of that, because I didn't know how to deal with the trauma that I was going through. And so I ended up doing 12 years in prison, and today I'm still trying to figure out some of those traumas and to be a better person.
Well, I thank everybody for sharing. And I was about to ask Josh right now to give me one of his thoughts that he had, and he said one of his beliefs, right? You said I was stupid, right? Did you believe that?
I did.
For a time, did you believe that?
Yeah.
Right? So look, behavior always follows belief, right? Always remember that. Whatever you have in your head, if you believe something, you're gonna behave in that way accordingly, right? So like, for example, college. We took an AA course, for the IBC, Imperial Valley College in Calipatria, right? The very first class was U.S. history. We had one class. The very first one they give me, U.S. history. All the dates, names, wars, you name it. It was in there. And I had to somehow memorize this for every quiz, every exam, every homework. And it overwhelmed me. And because I thought I was stupid, because I didn't graduate. You know, I was in the juvenile system my whole life, so I didn't graduate. I had a GED by this point, but I had low self-esteem issues, low self-worth, low self-value, right? And so when I was hit with this course, I wanted to quit on the 3rd week. And my boy Husky, right, David Singer, matter of fact, I always give him praise. He's out here. He came out here before me. But I told him, if it wasn't for what you told me, I would have quit. I wouldn't even be out here right now. And all he told me was, look, it seems hard right now. He's all, but take it one quiz at a time, one exam at a time, one class at a time, one semester at a time. Next thing you know, you're gonna graduate. And that's exactly what happened. He gave me a different thing to believe, right? And because of what he said, I said I could do it. So I went from saying I can't do it, I'm stupid, to I could do anything.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then now I'm sitting here at Cal State LA taking a BA course, and I'm a free man because I bought into what he told me, because I changed the narrative in my head, right? So let me ask you something. Since you brought that up, and you touched on it. So you had this belief you were stupid. What behaviors follow suit? Give me some examples. Can you please write on the board? Just bullet point some examples of the behavior that followed that belief.
Okay, so I would go and try to find people who were similar to me, and so I would go hang out with the wrong crowd.
How does that relate to thinking you're stupid? Can you explain that?
Well, because I didn't have no self-worth, and so like we always moved around a lot, and so I never had the same group of friends, and so I would try to find people who were willing to do whatever like I was willing, because I didn't have no self-worth.
Give me another.
And so that was the same thing with me, right? So I felt stupid because just like you, right, Josh? And guess what I did? I started hanging out with people that have no education and also drop out because they made me feel like I'm smarter than them. But in reality, we were just a bunch of idiots. But if I hang around with people that going to school and being a nerd, I'll be like, really, my self-worth can be down the drain. But hanging around these bums made me feel better myself.
Exactly.
So like I like how you said, hang out with the crowd, but also the crowd that you feel that you can fit your character defects. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And another behavior that followed was violence. So any type of authority figure, my parents, a teacher, the cops, anybody that would tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, I would just lash out at them, cuss them out, do anything, and then I would go in the streets, somebody would piss me off, and I ended up punching them or hitting them with something. And so violence was a big one for me.
Let me ask you why. So these authority figures, right? What would they tell you?
Well,
what was it that they said that actually triggered you?
They were actually trying to help me.
Well, give me an example of there was a time where they said something to you and it made you feel a certain way.
So,
let's go back to the most recent. Josh, how about this, Josh? Give us the most recent incident with the authority figure that told you something that got you triggered, upset.
Maybe your housing?
The most recent one.
yeah.
That's a good one.
So give us an example of that, the most recent one.
So I would say getting threatened with my housing.
Okay, so he was authority figure.
Yeah.
And he threatened you. How did he make you feel?
Oh, I was very angry.
But how did he make you feel? What was your thoughts?
Well, I've changed, so I was angry, but so now I know not to lash out like that types, but I still said something to him. Like that's how I lashed
Watch
out
this.
now.
Anger is secondary.
Exactly.
This is a secondary emotion. What were you feeling underneath? What was it that it made you feel initially?
Before you get angry.
Before you got angry.
You feel challenged, you feel embarrassed, humiliated, you feel like
Put down.
like
Yeah,
that. Boom, put that
down.
there.
Right, look. Now you're getting to it. Put down. Let's say humiliated too, just for the. All right? Check this out.
I'll say again, it'll make me feel stupid.
There you go.
See how you marry the two?
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
a reason for you getting angry at someone telling you something.
Yeah.
It's not because they're telling you something. It's because of how they said it and how it made you feel. So trip out on this. So we're gonna tie it into the Arrested Development, right? What Arrested Development does is it takes you back to the point where you were stunned emotionally, and you deal with it as that child. So for me, I was 7 years old when my dad beat my ass, right? Okay? Let's just say we're talking about he made me feel stupid, right? And then another person triggered me and I got angry. Why did I get angry? Because he humiliated and he put me down, which equals me feeling stupid, all right? Your brain can't tell time. It cannot tell time. It doesn't know the difference between feeling that emotion at 7 and dealing with it at 49. Doesn't know the difference. If you never processed it, if you never dealt with it, if you never got help for it, you are gonna feel, it's gonna take you all the way back to when you were 7 years old. I'm 49, so I'm gonna put that there.
You're 50.
It's gonna take it all, not yet. It's gonna take you all the way back to you're 7 years old, right? But guess what? We're gonna touch on this later. But whatever negative coping skills I developed through the progression of my traumas, through the mindset and character defects, I'm gonna use that here to deal with that person who triggered me. All right? So that's the problem of not processing childhood trauma. This is the issue of, for me, my passion is that, I always use this quote, we use it in the workshop. If you educate the child, you don't have to punish the man. So if we would help kids when they're younger process this stuff, we could keep them from a life that we live, right? We could. Not everybody commits crimes either. So some people, let's just say we're gonna use the college population, all right? They've gone through traumas themselves, but they deal with it in their own way, right? It might not be violence, it might not be drugs or alcohol, it might not be gangs, but believe me, there's a negative way that they deal with it and cope with it, right? And this process will help these students here, or will help ex-lifer, ex-gang members like me. It works, it's universal, right? If you apply this, you could actually figure out where I went wrong, why I am the way I am, and then now we have some foundation for you to sit there and identify these issues and pick each one and work on each one until you replace it, right? Through a process called conditioning. We'll get there later. The next workshop we're going to talk about, right? For now, I just wanted to give you guys something to think about. Take it home. Think about your own life.